We're going to get started here tonight. I'd like to thank everyone for coming out. Hello and welcome to the Fall River Mayoral Forum hosted by the Herald News. A few housekeeping items before we get started. My name is Will Richmond. I'm the news editor at the Herald News and I will serve as moderator for tonight's forum. I'd like to thank our host, the Fall River School Department and Custom Middle School, for providing this space. Tonight's forum is intended to be a discussion of the issues that these candidates will likely encounter should they be elected. We will start the forum with 3-minute opening statements from each candidate, the order of which was determined by a lottery prior to tonight's start. We will also conclude with 3-minute closing statements, the order of which also determined by a lottery. In between, each candidate will have the opportunity to answer questions posed by myself. Responses will be limited to 2 minutes with the opportunity to offer a 1-minute rebuttal at my discretion. The candidates will rotate through the questions, and each candidate will respond to each question. The Herald News would like to thank everyone for participating. We ask that those in the audience remain respectful of each of the candidates. If anyone in the audience is becoming unruly, they will be asked to leave. With this in mind, please limit applause and remarks until the end of tonight's forum, with the exception of right now as I introduce the candidates. First, Joseph Carvalho. Joao Costa. William Flanagan. William Grinvalski, Mike Raposa, and Richard Renzi. And as determined by the lottery, the first opening statement will begin with Mr. Flanagan.
Thank you, Will. And I want to begin by thanking the Fall River Herald News for hosting tonight's forum. And 3.5 years ago, I was in this same auditorium having a debate seeking to be elected as mayor of the city of Fall River. And at that time, our city had an unemployment rate hovering around 19%. 3.5 years later, by working with this community, we've been able to reduce that unemployment rate by 7 percentage points. The Department of Revenue 3.5 years ago was threatening to place our city into receivership. We had multi-million-dollar deficits in various accounts, and we also had several years of outdated audits. 3.5 years later, we've balanced a budget, and we've completed multi-years of outdated audits. And the Department of Revenue is no longer threatening to place our city into receivership. 3.5 years ago, when I was on this very stage, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education was seriously considering a state takeover of our school system. 3.5 years later, working with the community, we've been able to place our school system on a recovery plan. We've seen an increase in our graduation rate, a decrease in our dropout rate, and more students being placed in advanced placement courses. Over these last 3.5 years, we've taken a city that was once in a free fall, stabilized it, and by working together, we've been moving it forward. Now, as mayor, I recognize even though we've made progress, there's still a lot more work that has to be done. And that's why I'm seeking a third term as mayor. I'm seeking a third term so we can continue to get our economy moving forward. I'm seeking a third term so we can continue to make improvements in our public safety. I'm seeking a third term so we can make sure that we continue to improve our school system so our children can read by the 3rd grade and we can continue to increase our graduation rate. None of this is easy. It takes a lot of hard work. And I'm committed to continuing to do the work that needs to be done to get our city to continue to move forward. And over these next minutes while we have this debate, I look forward to hearing what my opponents have to say. I come here with an open mind this evening, and if they have ideas, good ideas, I hope we're able to work together to implement them. Because no matter where an idea comes from, if it's one that's going to benefit our city, it's important that we all embrace it to continue to improve the quality of life for the people throughout the city of Fall River. So it's an honor for me to be here. I look forward to this debate, and I look forward to earning your vote on September 10th so we can continue what we started and continue to move our city forward. Thank you.
Thank you. The next statement will come from Mr. Raposa.
Thanks, Herald News, for putting this function on today. I want to start with 2 weeks ago, I went to Philadelphia, talked with 3 manufacturing companies to expand here. Out of hundreds of phone calls I made, 3 contacted me back, and I was able to see them to see about expanding to Fall River. Textiles is making a new comeback. And the reason why it's making a new comeback is because the alpaca fiber, that's a cash crop, always there. So with that intended, and I returned back home, I got 2 voice messages from 2 companies in Pittsburgh. So I flew back to Pittsburgh over there to do the same thing. Right now, these 5 companies are working together on whether they're going to expand here to individual or as a tag team partnership to develop a whole new company. I served for you in the Gulf War, and now I like the chance to serve for you in public office. And that's my speech. Thank you.
Thank you. The next statement will come from Mr. Costa.
Thank you for putting this debate together for us, the Herald News. Well, I want to run for mayor because I want to get more jobs in the city. I want to get more jobs, more policemen for safety, better school education. That's about it.
Thank you. Mr. Cavallo.
I'd like to thank the Fall River Herald News for sponsoring this forum, the Fall River Public Schools for hosting us at the Cuss Middle School, and for the citizens in attendance and those watching at home. Good evening. My name is Joe Cavallo. I was born and raised in Fall River. I am your candidate for mayor. I'm a Vietnam veteran, a homeowner, and a taxpayer in the city. I'm as frustrated as many of you are about jobs, increased taxes, and ineffective government. Most of you know me as a fighter. I fought for Fall River on Beacon Hill. I battled with BFI to protect our water supply for the people of Fall River. I waged a 10-year war for the responsible siting of Hess LNG. I'm a neighborhood leader that supports local businesses and a champion for veterans' benefits and services. As we know, everything in this city is interconnected. Education, economic development, public safety, community. These are equally important and should be given equal attention. As mayor of Fall River, I will focus on the whole to achieve positive results for you. I will make this happen. I know you are as tired as I am of the old Fall River line. Not the steamboats, but the same old Fall River line, that things will get better. And yet, they haven't. And we all know that. We need a vision, direction, and more importantly, action. We need solutions, not slogans. We have all the necessary tools, abundant resources, talent, and energy. The only thing missing is the right leader. I've fought for this city before, and I've been victorious. And I am the right leader, more than ready and able to take on the fight for our city. I'm passionate about the challenges facing our city. I have a vision for a new Fall River, for a new city on the hill, for everyone. I respectfully ask for your vote on September 10th. I am Joe Cavallo. I am your candidate for mayor of Fall River. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Renzi?
Thank you, Will. In honor to the tradition of thanking people, I would like to thank the people of Fall River for those that are in attendance and those that are viewing for allowing me the opportunity to sit in front of you once again and ask for your permission to lead this city. I will take a moment to offer you reasons for why you should want to change the leadership. However, myself being wise enough to know that I cannot make you change the leadership, I'm going to instead tell you why I'm different from everybody here at this table. I am the only candidate to this day that is still not connected to anyone here in the city. Therefore, my decision-making will be right down the center on everything that requires my input. I do not owe any political promises as a result of such. Both last year's campaign and this year's campaign was paid for my own compensation for labor and not yours, the taxpayers. That not only has allowed me to save money by not forming a committee, but it has also allowed me to stay true to myself by not owing any political promises to be later on fulfilled by those that have helped me. I am not a politician or a lawyer, as most of you know. I do not hold a degree in political science. But then again, we must ask ourselves, do politicians or lawyers really care for us? I am a Christian man who is proud of his relationship with God, as many of you are with yours. I am the only one that honors the separation of church and state by not showing up at religious festivals throughout the city, and I am adamant about any public servant that actually participates in it. I am the only candidate that does not show up at neighborhood meetings every month during election year in an attempt to win them over. In fact, I feel the neighborhood association should remove themselves from the politics being played so that they can remain true to themselves as well. I am the only candidate that has a list of things not that I want to do, but things that I will do, because everything that's on this list is doable as a mayor. I believe in holding elected officials accountable and will do so by taking the position of mayor and working very closely with that of the city council towards the betterment of the city. And the reason why I will do that is because you deserve it. That is what you expect of us. And it is our responsibility to serve you, not the other way around. In closing, I came here tonight for one reason and one reason only, and that is to not discuss where this city has been, because all of you know where it has been and all of you know where it is. I came to discuss where it's going to be 3 to 4 years from now based upon
Thank you. And Mr. Gronvalski.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to the Herald News for hosting this. Thank you for the Cuss Middle School for hosting this, and thank you to the people of Fall River listening in. I am your guy from the street. I am here in the street in Fall River. I'm not a politician. I am from the streets. I carry a food stamp card. I'm here from the streets. I'm here to tell you people that the City Hall has gone to the point where people are intimidated by just being there. You go in there and you ask for a permit, or you go in there for one of your birth certificates and stuff, and you're always intimidated. We need to put the City Hall back into what they call a public servant. They are your servants. You put them there to serve you, not to have you be intimidated when you go there. Also, I want to put the city back to the people. Let's get rid of the Driscoll-Viveris years that it's been ever since. You have different people, you had different mayors, and you had different names. The system's never changed since then. It has to change. If it doesn't change, it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. You have to get somebody in it that is willing to fight. I run a $0 campaign. I don't ask nobody for nothing because I don't want to have to be the person to answer to them and give them what they want. The city is run by a couple of big three people with big money, and they don't get fined for anything they do wrong, but the little people do all the time. It is time to make it equal for everybody. Everybody's a taxpayer. Everybody should be paying their taxes. How do people fall $250,000 into debt with taxes? How do they do that? It's because people know people. That has to stop. Everybody has to be equal in City Hall. With that, I ask you people to vote to put me in. The man from the street that knows what the street is. I've been here since I was 9 years old. I'm 63. I am also a veteran. I ask you people to think hard. vote for your choice, but make damn sure that you guys are going to start putting it on the straight up and up. With that, thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, first question will begin with Mr. Carvalho and work our way down the table. Heard most of you touch on this in your opening statements, but what will you do as mayor to improve the city's unemployment rate?
Well, one of the things that I would initiate would be to bring together different segments of the community, bring in leaders of every segment, and address the problem that way. We also should really look at branding Fall River in a particular way that would attract outside developers and new businesses. I think we desperately need new businesses in the city, and I would leave no stone unturned to have that happen. Thank you.
Mr. Costa?
I would get a committee together to do some research on new companies come into Fall River, help these small business, they bring more employees together.
Thank you. Mr. Flanagan?
The economy is one of the most important issues facing our community. And even though we've made progress here in our city, there's still a lot more work that has to be done. There's still people who are unemployed in our community, and there's still people who are underemployed in our community. And as mayor, I'm working every day to create the economic climate in our community that wants to attract business to our city, but also helps to keep the doors of the current businesses open. I've been working with the federal delegation, the state delegation, our local city council, the private sector, to help put forth zoning changes in our city, to help put forth incentives in our community to get businesses to want to locate here. Just recently, the city of Fall River was awarded a $1 million grant to take unemployed workers who have recently become unemployed, and get them back to school, get them into Bristol Community College or SIR jobs so they can take a higher education course, so they can take a licensing course, so they can be paired up with a future employer. Our city was booming at one time with textiles. You could have gone to any point within our community and see a textile mill that was up and running. A lot of those jobs have either gone to Mexico or they've gone to Asia. Policies that were created in the federal government allowed companies to leave this community. When those companies leave and shut those doors, our unemployment numbers jumped up to double digits. One of the fights we took up here in the city recently was to bring Meditech into our community. Meditech was going to locate in the greater Fall River area. They were going to build a brand new plant, put building trades people back to work, and create permanent jobs within our community. But that project hit a lot of red tape. And I hear Mr. Cavallo talk about how if he's mayor, he's going to work to create an environment in our community to attract business here. But in fact, one of the organizations that he belongs to actually stopped special legislation from going forward that would allow Meditech to locate within our community. See, Senator Michael Rodrigues drafted a home rule petition that had the support of the governor, the lieutenant governor, the mayor, the city council, the Office of Economic Development, and even had the support of the town of Freetown. If that special legislation were going to pass, it would have paved the way for Meditech to locate here in this area. But an organization that Mr. Cavallo belongs to sent out special alerts and phone calls and worked very hard to get that special legislation from not going forward. If we were going to build Meditech in this community, it was going to be a game changer for our region. So we got to put the policies in place that's going to allow business to locate here. We got to put the climate in this city that's going to allow business to locate here, and we have to continue to build upon our reputation of being a business-friendly community. One of our accomplishments that we were able to achieve is that when A.J. Wright closed their doors with very little notice to the city of Fall River, I worked with the Office of Economic Development to bring a company out of Rhode Island into the city of Fall River called Rhode Island Novelties. They went to a vacant building, employed workers, started paying taxes again in the city. It's policies like that, it's efforts like that that have companies locate within the city of Fall River. And there's still a lot more work that needs to be done, and we're doing it. But the economy's challenging, Will. We got to continue to work together, and policies sometimes that happen at the federal or state level hinder our community from creating the jobs that are needed in today's economy.
Thank you. Mr. Grunwaldski.
On the jobs, I beg to differ on the loss of jobs here in the city. It's just that it was 19% and it's down to 12%. It is not that. It is that 7% was lost with no income whatsoever. Education and needed stuff should go to those people before the first ones that have just been laid off. There's many of people out there that have no income whatsoever. They're collecting scrap steel and scrap cars. And to get business down here and to get business in the economy moving to the city, you need to go to Boston. You need to kick some butt up there. You got the ball practice. You got to let him know that Fall River is suffering. He's taking care of all the other states, and we're the fun joke of the whole state of Massachusetts, Fall River. You got to go there. If you have to go to a federal level, damn, go to that federal level and get their attention. Just don't sit back and wait for them to come and knock on your door, because the businesses ain't going to do that. We have everything in place. We do have the economy. We do have the area for them to move in and build. It just has to be somebody's got to go out there and shake them up and get them to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Raposa.
Okay, I'll continue on textiles. Yes, textiles left here years ago, but right now Walmart is having trouble in India because of the new laws with labor, new laws on how they treat their employees, and safety laws have increased in all the third world countries. That's going to make it very difficult for any company to leave this country anywhere else. It will cost them more money than just stay here. So to continue on, you got computers as well, okay? A lot of people say, oh, computers, this, computer, that. Well, guess what? We have BCC, MIT, New England Tech, all these computer places. And where are they going? Seattle, Texas, Chicago, Boston. Why not keep them here? We got plenty of empty mills. Let's create jobs here. It's just not textiles, but also everywhere. You know, Walmart can't build a thing. Now all their employees are part-time. How do you pay a bill a part-time job? You cannot. Okay? Sam's Club's going to open up. Guarantee most of them will be part-time unless you have college degrees and you're in management. So education and jobs has to be the key thing here in Fall River. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Renzi.
There's no easy cure for the economy because it's made up of, multiple factors. But my job as your mayor is to represent you as the people, and therefore it starts by getting elected. And then I sit down with all 9 city councilors, and we start to rewrite the laws of this city that make this city business unfriendly. And then we start encouraging people right here in attendance and out there in the audience, the viewing audience, to become the next employer. It's not about attracting the corporate giant who's never going to come here. We need to start creating a brand new employer, a brand new future corporate giant. And if they want to come in to be competition, that's fine. But I believe we have the power here to change our own economy. We just need the right leadership and the right motivation. Thank you.
Thank you. Folks, I'm going to ask to remind you to hold your applause until the end of tonight's forum. Mr. Cavallo, you wanted to respond to what Mr. Flanagan had to say. You have 1 minute.
Yes, thank you. The group that you're talking about is Green Futures, Mr. Mayor. And actually, that group that I belong to, an environmental group in the area, sent a letter of commendation to the CEO of Meditech, Mr. Pappalardo, commending him on putting a conservation restriction on the vast majority of that land. The small imprint that the factory was going to go on was required to do some sifting of the soil. There were human beings living at Peace Haven 8,000 years ago. That's a fact. That's not a superstition or somebody else's idea. That's a proven fact. Plus the fact that Mr. Pappalardo's son is an archaeologist, and we wondered if that had anything to do with them balking at doing the kind of restoration that they needed, the kind of sifting of the soil for remnants of a population that lived there 8,000 years ago.
Thank you. Mr. Flanagan, you wanted to respond? You have 1 minute.
Thank you, Will. There was special legislation drafted by Senator Michael Rodrigues that would allow Meditech to move forward with the construction of their plant here in the greater Fall River area. It had the support of the governor. It had the support of the state legislature. It had the support of the mayor. It had the support of the city council. It had the support of the Chamber of Commerce. It had the support of the town of Freetown. And it had the support of the vast majority of people who live in this region because they saw the economic opportunity that Meditech would have paved for our community. Mr. Cavallo and his organization sent a special alert out to get people to oppose this special legislation. This legislation would have changed the city of Fall River for the better. It would have created jobs for our community. So you can't be hypocritical and say you support improving our economy, but then balk at an opportunity when it's presented to us for good-paying jobs in our community.
All right, we will move on to our next question. Mr. Costa, you'll begin. What role do you believe the mayor should play in facilitating coordination among the city's various economic development stakeholders, such as the Fall River Office of Economic Development, the Chamber of Commerce, private developers, and any other interested parties?
I think we should all work together and come up with new jobs and new ideas.
Thank you. Mr. Flanagan?
The mayor has to be an advocate for the community, whether it's the Chamber of Commerce, the Office of Economic Development, the Workforce Investment Board, the Bristol County Training Consortium, the Career Center, Mass Development, the federal government, the private sector. You have to be able to be communicating with all these various agencies at the same time. When companies are looking to locate in Massachusetts, more likely than not, they contact the governor's office. Based upon the relationships and the networks we've created with the governor's office, we have a direct line of contact with the Secretary of the Economy. We then work with Mass Development to showcase our city to these future developers who want to locate within the city of Fall River. A perfect example was Amazon. Amazon was looking to locate in the Northeast. Now, we worked with the governor's office, we worked with our federal delegation, we worked with the private sector to locate parcels of land within the city of Fall River to allow Amazon to build within this community. Now, Amazon's also looking at other states too. They're looking at New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island. They're looking at other parts of the world. So you're not just competing against Westport, Fall River, and Swansea to get a company to locate here. You're actually competing against the entire globe to get a global company to locate within your community. But the role of a mayor is to be a communicator, to be a facilitator, and to be an advocate for the community. And that's what we've been doing over the last 3.5 years, advocating and communicating with the private sector, letting them know what our city has to offer. A stable economy with a workforce that's looking to get back to work, and a community that cares about itself, and a community that wants to do better. So that's the role of the mayor, and that's what we've been doing to get our economy stimulated, to create the environment for businesses to locate here within the city of Fall River.
Thank you. Mr. Gronvalski?
I totally agree with the Mayor Flanagan. Well said. Well done.
Thank you.
The only thing that I would have to say to the whole thing is that the mayor should be on top of everything like that. And then if you run into that one piece of red tape, damn it, go after that piece of red tape. Don't just let that one piece of red tape stop people from getting jobs here. If the businesses want to be here and the federal government's got a piece of red tape, go after it. You're trying to go after jobs for people, you're going to have to cut that red tape. Thank you.
Mr. Raposa?
Could you repeat the question, please?
What role do you believe the mayor should play in facilitating coordination among the city's various economic development stakeholders, such as the Fall River Office of Economic Development, the Chamber of Commerce, private developers, and any other interested parties?
I believe the mayor should be a go-getter, like I did. Went out to Pittsburgh and Philadelphia on my own dime and said, hey, you guys looking to expand over here. And I'll be doing that again. You have a city manager. You have all these other managers in place. When you're an elected public servant, your job is to do public servant work. And that's one of the things you need to do, besides amongst other things. Thank you.
Mr. Renzi.
Under proper government, the mayor, I agree with Mayor Flanagan as far as him being a communicator, but at the same time, the COC and FOAD are both private entities, and therefore they're both responsible for themselves. Therefore, either you do the job that you established your entity to do, or you shut down. The mayor should lead the city as far as making sure that they actually are doing their jobs that they say they're doing. FOAD, I think it's an overpaid unemployment agency because it doesn't do nothing for the city. It does anything more than the unemployment office does. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone care to offer anything else on this matter? All right, moving on. Mr. Carvalho, 1 minute. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yes.
That's okay.
2 minutes, Mr. Carvalho, sorry.
Thank you. Thank you. The mayor should be the chief facilitator of all of those entities that you mentioned for Office of Education, of Economic Development, private developers, and the Chamber of Commerce and other entities. The biggest drawback to those entities being successful is education. Our key to full employment at some point in this city is to educate our children. And that doesn't happen by closing the Henry Lord Middle School and then not being able to successfully make the Innovation Academy a reality. That is a major stumbling block. Anytime that companies that would want to come here take a look at the education level, we need to raise that. We need to have more and better adult basic education classes. As a matter of fact, the neighborhood association that I belong to, the Flint Neighborhood Association, just purchased the Duval School, and one of the things that we're planning on doing is having adult basic education classes in the evening and also GED classes. We need to raise the entire education level of this community to attract businesses. Businesses want to come here to employ people, but they don't want to come here to have to educate people first and then employ them. So we need to have the skill sets in place here using Bristol Community College, Diamond Vocational School, UMass Dartmouth, and all the other entities that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. This next question will begin with Mr. Flanagan. As mayor, how active of a role should you play in education, considering your position as the chairman of the school committee?
The mayor has to have a very active role in education. And education is the building block, it's the foundation that's going to allow our city to continue to move forward. And I'm proud to say our administration has fully funded the educational system over the last 3.5 years. That's a feat that many cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts cannot claim. And we've seen the results in our school system based upon our commitment to it. As I stated earlier, we've had an increase in our graduation rate. We've seen a decrease in our dropout rate. More students are taking advanced placement courses. We're also offering parents more choice within the school district too. And we're also seeing new schools coming online within the community, charter schools, working for innovation schools. Talbot was recently transformed into a STEAM school, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Mathematics, getting those 6th, 7th, and 8th graders ready for their high school experience, focusing in on them a strong math background and a strong science background. But we also got to make sure that we're investing in the early educational levels too. And what we're exploring now is making even more of an investment within our pre-K levels. Pre-K is very important to a community for a number of reasons. First, it gets a child ready for school. So when a child enters kindergarten, he or she already has some basic educational foundation. But talk to any parent in our community, and they'll tell you the difficulties associated with the rising cost of a preschool for their child. So by having more pre-K opportunities for our children, we're also creating more employment opportunities for our parents to go off to work too. So our administration believes and supports a cradle-to-career educational system, making sure that at the pre-K level to the college level, we're making the investment that is necessary.
Thank you. Mr. Grunwalski.
I don't think the mayor should be sitting at the head of the board on the school committee. That's what the school committee is for, is to control the schools. It's overseeing and being part of it is fine, but not making all the final decisions. Let the school committee run itself. That's all.
Thank you. Mr. Raposa.
In that area, I would remove the mayor's position from the school committee. I don't see it being a beneficial. The mayor's position has way too much to do, and controlling the funding for the school to ensure that they have the funding needed, and that the teachers teach and the way that students learn. You can have a teacher that teaches out this whole area, like when I was in college. And you might have a few people fail because their learning ability doesn't match the teaching style. And that's a problem in this city. I've seen a few people, and I know of a few people, that took their kids out of one school when they were in special ed at that school, moved into another school, and not in special ed anymore, and they're an A student. There's something going on. You got to do a proper diagnostic and a good repair. Check things out. Get to the bottom of things. You just can't just shut a school down because of this or that, or switch people here and there. Whatever happened to recess? All these kids are just sitting around in classes, getting angry and agitated. Let them go for recess and work it off. I'm very happy I was raised in the 70s. And thank you very much.
Mr. Renzi?
The mayor's position on the school committee, although a lot of people feel it's unnecessary to have there, I'm okay with leaving it there. In promoting education, which is on my platform the baseline of everything, I believe that that's our job as a community, is to educate not only our children but everybody involved, including the adults. The police are supposed to educate people when they pull you over, not just fine you. They're supposed to inform you of the laws you broke and then, use their discretion as to whether or not they could fine you. But as far as education goes, success for our children is only 12 years away if we make the right choices today. You have to change the leadership of the city. You need to help me rebuild the school system, because that's going to be the only way you're going to do it. Funding the school system right now is not going to get you anywhere but deeper in the hole. It's a broken system. It needs to be rebuilt and refunded, but only the people can do it. Okay, that's one of my goals, is to rebuild the school department within the first year of being elected and implementing it in the second year. I said that in the last campaign. Okay, the teachers will work under a new curriculum, because if these are going to be our children, the Fall River School Department needs to be owned by Fall River, not by Massachusetts or the federal government. Our children need to stop suffering for our selfish needs and our personal gains, okay, being held by politicians who say they got the answers, but they don't really care. They don't care. Thank you.
Mr. Carvalho.
Well, first of all, I don't think it's within the purview of any mayor to take themselves off as the chairman of the school committee. And I may be mistaken, but I think that's an act of the legislature and perhaps the city charter, which Councilor Mayoral, who's here, could probably speak to better than I at that point. I think that we have major problems. We have schools that are level 4 by the DESE. We have 23% of the males who entered Durfee High School 4 years ago did not finish school. 23% of the males. That's according to the DESE website. That does not bode well for the future of this city. We need to pay special attention to the dropout rate and not create other programs that hide where these people are going to. That, if you go to the resiliency prep school, you're no longer listed as a student in the Fall River School Department. And a lot of those kids drop out, and they're not counted for in the statistics that the Fall River School Department puts out. That needs to change. We need to have accountability in the highest order. We're talking about the future of this city with its youth. Don't be hiding people here and porking numbers over there. That doesn't work for me. And I've taught. I've worked in a lot of schools outside of this system. And believe me, it would not be tolerated at all. Period. Thank you.
And Mr. Costa.
Well, between Mr. Flanagan and Joe Cavallo, you answered my question too.
Mr. Flanagan, you wanted to offer a 1-minute response?
Thank you, Will. The Department of Elementary and Secondary Education has looked to the mayor over these last 3.5 years to make sure that the recovery plan that has been adopted by our school committee is being implemented. But I cannot stress enough how important it is for our city to continue to invest in early childhood education. As mayor, I've been going with our elementary school principals, taking our 4th grade students to the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth, having 4th graders tour a college campus, getting them to see what they can achieve after they graduate from high school, getting them to already start thinking about what they want to be when they grow up. Some want to be doctors, attorneys. Some even want to be the mayor of the city of Fall River. But it's important that we have to implement in them at such a young age the importance of education, because if we don't catch them by the 3rd grade, the chances of them going off the wrong path greatly increase. So as mayor, you've got to continue to invest in all educational levels, but making sure you focus on the youngest of students.
Thank you. All right, we are almost out of time, so this will be the last question for tonight. We'll begin with Mr. Grunwalski. With the SAFER grant due to expire during the coming mayoral term, how will you ensure proper staffing of the fire department in consideration of the budgets of other public safety departments?
Now, the fire department is very, very important to the safety of all citizens in the city of Fall River. That goes without question. We have to keep the fire department there at any cost, whatever it takes. And if the bond is a SAFER bond, you said?
SAFER grant.
SAFER grant. We should try to reapply for another SAFER grant, or look to the federal government or the state to back us up on keeping the fire department intact the way it is.
Mr. Raposa.
Well, as a college graduate in psychology, I know grants is a one-time payment that you don't have to pay back. Anybody knows that if you're a graduate from college. Okay, SAFER grants are fine, but that's only for 1 year, and then you're begging for more money. What needs to be done is what you do at your home. Economy goes down, you have satellite TV, cell phone, your home phone. You start cutting things off to save money. And that's what I would do in the city. $7.5 million can be saved annually. I did the figures. And we can keep our fire department fully with 2 more paramedic trucks, because we need them. And our police department fully loaded, and those awful Chevy cars, they're terrible. But there's plenty of money. It's there. If it's used in the right direction, public safety wouldn't be a concern. Thank you.
Mr. Renzi.
Can you repeat the question?
With the SAFER grant due to expire during the coming mayoral term, how will you ensure proper staffing of the fire department in consideration of the other public safety needs?
There is no surety at this moment that I can offer you, because reality is, if it's not renewed, we are in a hole as we speak. That's reality. We don't have the money. That's why we applied for the grant to begin with. However, as mayor and leader of the city, I will draw the unions into the office, and we will enter into a more cost-effective contract. We will renegotiate as many terms as possible to assure as many jobs as possible. But to give you a solution as far as the funding at this moment, I don't have the answer. Thank you.
Mr. Cavallo?
I think the main concern that I have is What if we hadn't been awarded the SAFER grant? I don't think it's a good idea or makes good business sense or civic sense to rely on grants to bail us out at these times. The first thing, and we got the SAFER grant, and I'm glad for that, for public safety's sake. However, the first day after the SAFER grant was awarded, I would have, as mayor, been looking at different avenues to explore to keep the police force and the fire department at full complement and not try to rely on grants bailing us out. We need to be a little more creative. We need to be a little more looking towards self-sufficiency rather than relying on these grants because, you know, as we know, the SAFER grants don't keep coming every time you ask for them. There is a finite end to that grant, and we need to be prepared for that, and we should be making the kinds of movements and overtures now to ensure that we're not going to lose firemen and police officers. Definitely. So I don't think we should be that dependent and always be counting on those grants coming. We need to find new ways of revenue. We need to find new ways of financing these programs, our police force, our fire department, lest we come to the day where, oh boy, we didn't get the SAFER grant, or we didn't get the COPS grant. We're going to be in big trouble, ladies and gentlemen, if this city continues on that path. Thank you.
Mr. Costa?
As of right now, when it expires, I would apply for a new grant, see if we can get it.
Mr. Flanagan?
Thank you. Back in 2009, the 9C cuts were levied upon the city of Fall River, and the fire department was decimated. I recall going to the senior high-rise buildings throughout the city and speaking with our senior citizens, and they were telling me at the time how petrified they were if there was 2 fires within the city, because back in '09, if there were 2 fires within the community, our fire department was only able to respond to one of them and fight that effectively, and they weren't able to get to the second one. After being elected, I strongly advocated not once but twice for a SAFER grant for the city of Fall River. And not once but twice, working with our federal delegation, we were awarded the largest SAFER grant in the history of SAFER. This last grant was $14.5 million, which allowed us to fully restaff our fire department. The SAFER grant has been effective. We've had several fires in our community as of late. Some of them have been arson. And because of that SAFER grant, our firefighters have been able to respond efficiently, fight the fire, stop it from spreading, and rescue people from a burning building. So we were very fortunate to receive that SAFER grant. But as mayor, I'm also wise enough to know, too, that there may not always be an opportunity to have SAFER grants for our community. That's why after receiving that grant, we formulated a SAFER task force made up of myself, people from the financial team, the private sector, firefighters, the fire chief, the fire union, everybody working together to find out ways and to strategize for life after SAFER, knowing that that SAFER grant may not always be there for us when we apply. So yes, it's been effective. Yes, I would apply again for it because I've seen the effectiveness of it for our community. But we also have to be wise enough to know that it may not always be there for us, and that's why we're strategizing now with the SAFER task force to make sure that when this grant expires, and if the grant is not renewed, we have a plan in place to adequately fight fires in our community.
Thank you. Please hold your applause, folks. We will now shift to closing statements from each of the candidates. First up, as determined by lottery, Mr. Costa.
Well, I want to thank everybody for being here today to listen to the statements. And if I become mayor, I cannot take the taxes down anymore, but I will try not to raise any more taxes and water bills. But whatever is there, but I will try not to raise any more taxes when I'm in. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Renzi.
Thank you, Fall Rivers, for showing up tonight at the debate. The downside to having a debate like this is that it doesn't allow us to be one-on-one with you. it doesn't allow you to ask questions. It doesn't allow you to ask each and every individual one of us, what is our why and why are we running? What is our motivation behind our desire to run? So that's the downside to it all. But a vote for me come September 10th is going to assure you this. Not overnight, but guaranteed by the end of my first term, some type of change that's going to affect either the taxation, the police, or schools. Education is number one to me, so I'm probably going to be focusing on the schools, trying to better the school department. By the end of the term, no matter how many terms I seek or that you allow me to have, taxes will be lowered, the police department will be remanned up to full staffing, because I did the numbers, and I feel, and I will stand by my statement, that numbers don't lie, people lie. And I did the numbers one day on a blog. I built up the police department to 254 patrolmen, 24 admin, and 30 clerks for $16 million. And that included their health benefits, the gasoline in the vehicles, expenditures, and everything. So if we're at 215 for $15 million right now, there's no reason as to why we can't be fully staffed for about $1 million more. So a vote for me come September 10th is going to assure you change, is going to assure you true leadership, because the leadership is going to be not only on my shoulders, but on the shoulders of the City Council as well, because they are your real representatives. I just have to work with them to make your city better. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Grunwalski.
Thank you. I just want to say in closing that thank you all for coming and letting us speak and listening to us. I am not a trained or a learned speaker like our Mayor Flanagan. He's a good speaker. I'm not. I'm a man that does. I do what I can. I would promise you that I would make the best city we have. I would bring it back 20 years ago, right? What comes around goes around. The city is in turmoil because it's being run by the same people. It's just different faces. You people have to realize that. Nobody looks and sees what's going on. It's that simple. I've got no fear of these people. I didn't take no money from them, donations. I didn't do it. I ain't going to take it from nobody. All right? The city needs to come around. It needs to be in control. Departments need to be in control of themselves. You need a leader. You need somebody that's going to put their foot down and say, no. Everybody in City Hall is not going to drive home with a public vehicle car. They're going to be putting them in a municipal lot. You can't be paying for people to go back and forth to Dartmouth on our dime. Nobody gives you a car to go back and forth to work, do they? Nobody does. The city needs to get control again, and it needs to get control under one person. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Flanagan.
Once again, I want to thank the Fall River Herald News for hosting tonight's Mayoral Forum, and most importantly, I want to thank you for attending and viewing tonight's forum. I deeply care about the city, and I deeply care about its people. And in 2009, I was fortunate enough to earn your vote to become mayor. And in 2011, I was fortunate enough again to earn your vote to get reelected as mayor of the city of Fall River. And over these last 3 years, we've made progress. We've seen some improvements in our economy. We've seen improvements in our school system. We've seen improvements in our public safety. We've seen parks and playgrounds being built in the city. And we've seen roads and sidewalks being repaired. But even though we've made progress, I still recognize there's still a lot more work that has to be done. We still have people who are searching for work. We still have people who are being victimized of crime, or people who are in fear of being victimized. We still have children who can't read by the 3rd grade, and students who are dropping out of high school, and teachers who feel they don't have a voice within inside of our classroom. And I understand that, and I get it, and I care deeply about it, and I want to continue to work with the community to make the progress, to improve the quality of life, to have that generational responsibility we all care about. Because at the end of the day, we not only want to have an improvement in our quality of life, we want to make sure that our children and our grandchildren also have a better quality of life than what we had. So we've been making improvements, but even though we've made improvements throughout the city, with every positive, there's also a negative too. And one of the last topics I want to touch with you upon here this evening is one that's having a negative effect on our economy, one that's having a negative effect on our school system, and one that's having a negative effect on our public safety, and that's drugs. As a community, we have to come together to get help for those people who are addicted to drugs, but also get tough on those people who are selling drugs in our community. Many of you know that before I became mayor, I was a prosecutor, and I was supervising the Fall River District Court. One particular morning, before court began, a lady came in to see me, and she said, "I want to speak with you regarding my son. He was arrested last night for heroin possession." And I said to her, "Ma'am, you probably don't want to speak with me. You may want to speak with his defense attorney. He'll be in shortly." She says, "No, I want to speak with you, and I need you to have my son held this morning. Because if he's released from this courtroom, the next building I see him in is going to be the morgue." Now, there's a mother who loved her child, but also knew that he was too far gone. Talk to anybody in our community, and they have a similar story to tell you like that. That's why, as a community, we have to get tough on this issue
Thank you, Mr.
and help
Flanagan.
those who need help, but hold those responsible who are selling drugs too.
Mr. Carvalho?
Well, I think my record of proven results, I fought a 10-year battle against the liquefied natural gas terminal in the north end of the city, against a multi-billion-dollar oil corporation. 10 years. So I was in it for the long haul. I think that what we need is really a change in leadership. What you need to ask yourself is the major question: are you better off today than 3.5 years ago or nearly 4 years ago? And I don't know too many people, except the privileged few, who really, through the patronage of this administration, have seen, their golden days, if you will. I think that is really something that we need to change. We need to have transparency in city government, not backroom deals. Certain people get favors done. We've certainly seen a flurry of activity. A couple of people in the community said, "Gee, Joe, it must be an election year. The streets are getting done, this is getting done, that's getting done." And what could I respond to them? Is, yes, it is an election year. You're absolutely right. So I think that we need a change in leadership. We need to impact the educational system here. I think that the failure of creating the Innovation Academy was a failure of leadership on the part of the chairman of the school committee. I think that's an egregious error that took place. And basically, we need to move forward, get the education thing done. Education is the key to employment, to economic development. As I mentioned before, definitely have to raise the education level of this city across the board to get some companies to come in here and take a look at the skill sets that we have, utilizing BCC, Diamond Vocational, and UMass Dartmouth. Those elements are something that I would make a tremendous commitment to make sure that we do get some employment opportunities going on here. Thank you.
And our final statement will come from Mr. Raposa.
Okay, a little bit about myself, Danny here. I was born and raised in Fall River, attended the public school system, and they talked about people dropping out of high school. I was one of them, got a GED, went in the military, and I didn't return back here until 1992. I'm sorry, 2003. I left in 1990, okay? Dropped out in 85, my last year of high school. Now I have 5 college degrees, and I just don't see how people can just say, "Oh, these people dropping out of school." You gotta look at the circumstances of what happened to people, okay? So I have a worldly education, been all over the world. I have close friends in Seattle, big corporations that can't expand here. So vote for me at the primary on September 10th, because you're allowed to vote for 2 people. And I pray that I'm one of them. And you have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Thank you. Before we wrap up tonight, just a reminder that the Herald News will be hosting a 6th Bristol Representative District debate tomorrow night at Bristol Community College at 6:30. Thanks again to each of the candidates for participating, Cuss Middle School for hosting us, and please go out and vote on Tuesday, September 10th. Thank you and have a good night.